Welcome to the Back to Me podcast, where we help multicultural incoming freshman women and men manage their entire college experience throughout post-graduation to successfully transition into entrepreneurship and corporate workspaces as new hires.
Back to me. Oh, I turned it around. I'm back to me. I finally figured it out. I'm back to me. So when you think you have nothing, back to me. I go back to me. Yeah, I'm back to me.
Hello, everyone. It's your host, Yoli Tamu. At this stage in your life, making sense of this world as it relates to you is vital. In this week's episode of our third annual Divine Nine series, How Sororities and Fraternities Support Mental Health Awareness, we are joined by Dr. Syreeta Greene, Associate Dean of Fellow Affairs at the American Film Institute, and Kappa Nu Sigma San Fernando Valley alumni chapter member of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. Dr. Greene shares how important it is to handle peer criticism and never be afraid of failure. Find out how valuable being a part of the collective Divine Nine can serve you as you pursue both your personal and professional goals. Enjoy. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Syreeta. How's it going?
Hello. Thanks for having me. All is well. I'm glad to be here.
Yes. I remember we met a few months ago at our fellow AKA Sora friend Tish Norman's event. Powerful night that we had hanging out, having girl chat.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you're here. So with our podcast today, we wanted to just talk to you and get a feel for how you take care of yourself and mental health awareness. But I love to get a jump start on who you are. So let's just start there. Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely. So who am I? Look, I'm a sister. I'm a daughter. I'm an educator. I'm a genealogist. I'm a preservationist. I'm a historian. I am a member of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, as previously stated. But yeah, I guess it's a small town, but it's not too small. But I originally come from Pomona, California. That's where I was born and raised, and then moved out to Los Angeles at the age of 18 to go to college. Went to the University of Southern California and have lived in Los Angeles ever since. And so, yeah, I mean, that's a little bit about me.
Just a teeny bit. Well, now currently you're an Associate Dean of Fellow Affairs of the American Film Institute, correct?
Correct.
So now how are you serving students and what motivated you to take this role at that school?
Yeah, so my journey in higher education has been a bit non-traditional. Been in higher ed for about 20 years. It's not typically a field that folks go into college saying, oh, I want to work with college students one day. I want to work at a college or a university, right? Like that's not what anybody starts off going to school. And you can talk to a number of different people who are in higher ed and they'll just be like, yeah, no. It's one of those things that, you were, maybe you got into student organizations, you joined some, school committee, you worked for a department on campus. And then you just have this realization one day, like, oh, yes, there's jobs here and people do this as a career. And this is how you end up learning about, working at a college or university. So for me, it started off as like, I needed a job out of college, and just so happened it was a student advisor position that was opened at USC. And I applied, and thankfully they, accepted me and extended an invitation to work there. And I've been doing that work ever since. I think the root of it for me has been always wanting to be in a role where I can help people and serve other people. And it has turned out that I've been good at serving college students, which was a little weird starting out because I legit got my first job working on a college campus just having graduated. So I was, a couple of months out of undergrad before I was advising undergraduate students. And of course, them looking at me like, so what year are you? You're the advisor? But that has led me to, work with a number of different, students from all types of backgrounds. I've had the opportunity to work specifically like in a Black cultural center had the opportunity to work with transfer students. I've had the opportunity to work with veteran students. And I've had the opportunity to build a couple of different programs serving students and meeting their needs. And now in this role, really expanding the support services and resources that are available for graduate film students at the American Film Institute. And I think the end goal has always been like, how can I help someone get through this journey that they are on, which is education, and be able to realize their goals?
Very, very cool. I always think of us as educators and just, examples in education of how we are truly in this business or in this profession because we have a love for young people. Because, people ask us all the time, like, oh, education is a wild place. How are you still there? How are you still doing it? So you definitely have to have a love for students, wouldn't you say, to do this?
Yeah, I think it's a love for the students, but it's also, I think it's part of my calling. I think to be able to serve and help other people. And it just so happened that the population in which I'm doing that with is students. When I was an undergrad, I started off as a nursing major and thought that, I was going to serve people by being a nurse, but something about that whole science and math thing threw me off. I got to a certain point where I hit my ceiling and I was like, oh, okay, that's not going to do it. And then I thought I was going to work in government and become the first Black female mayor of Los Angeles, and that didn't happen because I have too big of a mouth. And I thought, like, okay, they're just gonna take me out because I'm gonna call everybody out every chance I get. And then, yes, it came, and then I was able to settle on working with students. And I think where I have been most fulfilled is just helping young people make sense of the world and make sense of this stage of their lives and to provide them support when they feel unsupported, right? Which at the end of the day lands folks to crossing the stage and graduating. And, I've been fortunate, I guess, to be able to see folks in some of their more difficult places, right? Whether, self doubt, lack of money, maybe have experienced a traumatic event and been able to support them, through all of that to then see them graduate. And that's always very fulfilling.
That's fantastic. Because, on this podcast, we're serving the incoming college student, college freshman that's, experiencing the college world for the first time and even the postgraduate, heading out into the workforce. So both of them are dealing with all this anxiety. And so I would love to know what services you offer to young students in your role now as the associate dean.
Yeah, so they range from like our population, the average age is 28, and they
Wow.
range from 22 to 54. So, these are usually folks who have already had experience in filmmaking and, making films in the work world. What's interesting though, in terms of like general, like this is what's on our website, right? Like, yes, we have a counseling program and we also host a number of programs and events. We also provide diversity, equity, and inclusion training, as well as, opportunities for underrepresented, historically marginalized, groups to be able to connect and get additional support. But I think in general, when it comes to students, I think the intangible yet sort of steady service that I've been able to offer is that like one-on-one coaching that like, let me hear sort of what's going on and then, you know, pour into them or plant a seed or right size expectations or offer a different perspective that when it comes to younger students, they have not yet experienced. And so they hadn't even considered, right? And so that's the intangible, like that. I don't know how you put that on a resume, type of thing. I think what's been helpful in sort of building that skill set is, I do have a master's in social work. And so, to be trained, in counseling and sort of counseling principles, as well as other, social work based skill sets and values and whatnot, has lended itself to be able to, I think, improve my practice in serving students.
Hmm. So that's interesting. So you're serving the students that are over 20 and as old as 54. Wow. So they may be entering their second careers.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So now what are main concerns for them? Would it be, I'm sure they're different from the 20-year-old to the 50-year-old, but do they all seem to experience some sort of anxiety? Because, we're coming through this pandemic, and in the film world, my goodness, everybody's had to adjust. So what would you say are some of their concerns or something that sticks out to you for them?
Well, I think for anyone who's like young and considering, college and adulting for the first time, it may feel like some of the feelings of anxiety and not being sure and about like the world or what it is that you want to do and stuff like that is unique to just that person or that age or whatever. And it's not. Like, I think whenever folks are experiencing transitions and something new and wanting to be accepted and wanting to be good at what it is that they're doing, sort of stays with us as human beings. And so, yeah, you have the 22-year-old, the 28-year-old, and the 54-year-old who are experiencing various levels of anxiety, experiencing imposter syndrome, experiencing self doubt, wanting to be accepted and wanting to be good, right? Filmmaking is so subjective and very critical. So you want, and you find quite a few folks who want their peers to view their work, their creativity, the thing that's maybe very personal for them is really good. And so part of it for me in some of the conversations with them is like, so you do realize that failure is good. Like, you don't have to be perfect because that need for perfection causes some of them to also then be mean spirited to their peers, right? Because everything is writing on this project, and it's like you do realize this film right here actually goes nowhere. It only stays here at the institution. So, like, we're supposed to be learning from this, and even when everything, your pre-production, your script writing, maybe the actual shoot day, all of that was a hot mess, is there something that can be learned from that? And what can you do differently? And so sometimes it's having that conversation with them so they don't beat themselves up. It's hard not to internalize your internal thoughts, but this negative self-talk, as well as maybe, some of the criticism that they're receiving, and help them to be able to right size that input of information, if you will, and think of it differently. So yeah, even you got folks in their 30s and you still are having to have those conversations with them.
Yeah. That's important that you're saying this, particularly in the entertainment business. It's very competitive. And like you said, people's creativities are on the line and being judged at all times. So, yeah, that does create a lot of anxiety. So now, because you're juggling a lot of these conversations, how do you take care of yourself? What is your mental health plan?
Yeah, so I think one of the things I've learned in social work is you've got to build in that time because you can't be taken on a lot. I can't say I've always been good at it. And I think in my younger days, being fully independent for my livelihood, like money was also like the thing. And, I couldn't think really sort of outside of like, what can I do that doesn't cost a whole lot of money? But I think what I've learned for me, one is I love to travel. So whenever I can be on a plane somewhere and, on somebody's island, then that's what I'm gonna try to do. And one, because it's one of the best ways. Like even when I do travel internationally, I don't even get the international phone plan. Like I'll connect to my phone when I'm back in the resort where the Wi-Fi is available. Other than that, I'm just sort of gonna disconnect as much as possible so that I can really relax. I think outside of that is listening to my body and not trying to push it when it's obviously telling me like, girl, go sit down somewhere or do something better. So whether that's exercising by taking walks, like I'm not a big like going to the gym, but a good walk actually does me a lot of good. Or eating more greens. Like my body will let me know, like, girl, you need some roughage in your system. What's happening? What we doing? Because I'm about to jack you all the way up.
Right, right.
And it's going to show me a number of different ways. If I need more water. So I think there are times where being hyper responsive to the needs of my body is where I need, to do the self care. And then the other things like, I try to get a massage, once or twice, try to get somebody working on my feet or something.
Pampering is
A
important.
little pampering, a little pampering. And then the things that I wish I would do more of, I actually love being able to just sit and just read. I don't get to do that enough, where I'm not thinking about, I got to clean this or I have to read this or I have to go here, I have to fix that or whatever. Like just to be able to sit and read a good book for like 4 or 5 hours. It's like actually really relaxing to me. And
It's
it can
that
be a
bad.
dense book, that's tackling, a very serious topic, but just the act of just like sitting and being dialed into this book, yeah, is something that I actually find that I like to do, but I just need to create more time to do it.
I love that. That's an escape. I love that. Wow. Well, you're here for our Divine Nine series, and we wanted to know, how has being a member of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated served you thus far in your life?
Yeah, I think it has been a journey. I'm trying to find like the best words that are like, oh my gosh, it's been so good. And like, because it's been complex, right? I think for me, it has like in college, it gave me a sense of, and this is gonna sound weird from the outset, so I need folks to like hear me all the way out. It gave me a sense of purpose when I was struggling academically, because the purpose was I couldn't let my chapter members, my sorors down, right? For many Black Greek letter organizations, particularly in the North and on the West Coast, we have small chapter sizes, and small meaning you can range from one and probably no more than 10. And we were always, for my chapter, the Elite Theta Epsilon chapter at the University of Southern California, we always sort of ranged between like, 4 to 6. So that meant, everybody held an officer position. Everybody, was sitting on some committee or chairing some sort of committee, right? Like I made a commitment. And so when I felt like I wasn't making it academically, like the push was I can't fail and I can't stop out because my swords are depending on me, right? And then of course building those early, adult relationships that have sustained and lasted throughout adulthood up until this point has been amazing, right? Just being able to see us as young, just goofy really when you really think about it. But boy, we thought we were ground, but just to see us at that stage of our lives and now seeing so many of those women who are now like executives and mothers and wives or living out their dreams in so many different ways. The sorority in general has given me the opportunity to develop my leadership skills. It's given me the opportunity to network and meet so many phenomenal people. It's put me in spaces that I don't think I would have ever thought, meeting people that I would have never thought I would have met. And the larger sort of network amongst the Divine Nine has also been a benefit and something that I don't think you really sort of think about as a young person. But certainly, as you get older, you're like, oh yeah, you can go into different spaces, you can have on certain colors, have on your letters, and you can be anywhere in the world and folks be like, give that look. That's like, oh shoot, yes, I know you and you know me. We don't really know each other, but we know of each other by virtue of the organizations in which we, have committed to. So it's been a wonderful experience, even the difficult parts, which are just, dealing with other human beings, right? Like, and humans are difficult. Let's
So
be
you get
very
some
real,
practice. Yeah.
right? But it definitely has been a support when I've needed it and has allowed me to, again, serve other people as well. Not even just like in the sense of like community service, but other women, right? Like, especially for sororities, like being able to empower other Black women, like that's been a tremendous value that, I don't think is sometimes intangible and gets lost in the mix, but I think is very important.
Yeah, I mean, I really think it's important what you said about the Divine Nine as a whole. And I think that's why this series is our most popular one, because you really feel the brotherhood and the sisterhood with all of the organizations. And so I was excited to be able to do this for our third time. So thank you for saying that, yeah, it's a brotherhood, sisterhood for all of you. It's pretty powerful, regardless of colors. I love that. I love it.
It really is, right? And again, like when I think about if particularly if you join as an undergraduate member, like the chapters can be at times really small. So you're working with one another, you're getting to know one another, you're developing this banter, you go on trips with one another, right? And so some of those same positive attributes for one's own organization do, translate and or transfer with members of other organizations as well too. It's the reason why folks, marry, be, one another and are sometimes closer with a member of another organization than sometimes members of their own organization because they've developed these close relationships. So it's very special. And I think we do have much more potential that we haven't tapped into. Black people are phenomenal, particularly Black Americans, and the history that we have here in this country. But then, just connected because, of course, our organizations, Black Greek letter organizations, are not just for Black Americans, but of course, throughout the diaspora and, of course, folks who don't even identify as Black. But I think that we have such tremendous potential to be able to impact our communities and the world. And there's still much more that we can do. And if we fully tapped into our strength in numbers and the service that we do in the talent, time, and treasure of Black folk, man, let me tell you.
We are a powerful resource.
We look,
So true.
sis. Look,
Once we figure
it's
out
one
who
of
we
those things
are.
when you don't really recognize your own power, right?
Right.
And that's us individually, but I think even many of the groups that we're in, whether it's Black Greek letter organizations or Links or, Jack and Jill or some other community-based organization, right? Like if we really tapped into our power.
Mm-hmm. Unstoppable. Unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
This has been fantastic. Just having this time with you. And I always like to wrap up with words of encouragement for our listeners. And so I'm just thinking as you were speaking, for that young person that's considering joining an organization, do you have some final words of encouragement for that listener?
Absolutely. So, and this is what I tell plenty of undergraduate students that I've worked with who have come to me and been like, I'm interested in joining an organization. I'll be like, all right, well, why? What's your why? That's going to be the first thing. Because, in life, not everything is for everyone. And that's okay, right? It's okay to explore it. And it's okay to come to a decision after you've explored it, whether or not it's the right thing for you. And it might not be the right thing for you now, but it could be the right thing for you later. And that's one of course, the wonderful features about Black Greek letter organizations is that you can join even after you've graduated undergrad. So what's your why? Why do you want to join? The second thing is going to be do your research, look up all of if you're, a male identifying human, then look up all the fraternities and compare and contrast. If you're a female identifying human, then, look up all the sororities, compare and contrast. When you go on there, when you go on your respective campus, go to all the different events. One of the myths that I don't know where it comes from, folks are like, well, if I go to this event, that means I'm interested. You're interested in just the basic of like, I'm just trying to get to know what this is, who they are, and that's fine. Nobody said that because you went to their event that all of a sudden that's your only interest. And so it's important to get to know folks and to see them in different settings. See them at the informational where all the Greeks come and they're, dressed up and they have their, sport jackets on and they're giving you their formal presentation, and then go see them at the party. and see how they get down and what they're doing. And then go see them at the community service, and then go see them at, some event being thrown by somebody else. How do they interact with you? How do they show up? Are they consistent, or do they show up differently in different spaces, right? And yeah, and just be open. Just be open. But no, it's a lifetime commitment. So once you make that decision, just don't wait until your senior year, because you ain't helping nobody if you wait until your senior year. Just wait until after you graduate then and join an alumni chapter. But don't come and be like, I've waited 3 years and now I want to join.
Wow. Such good advice. I love this. So now if they wanted to learn more about the American Film Institute, do you have an IG or maybe send them to LinkedIn to contact you?
So, I mean, if they want to learn something more about the American Film Institute, they definitely should go to the website, afi.com, to learn. I mean, there's a lot of really good information. If you're a movie buff outside of wanting to, do their master's in film program, there's just a lot of really good movie information. AFI is known for its archives, because that's why it was set up initially, was to catalog and archive all of the American films as far back as possible. So there's a lot of really great film information. And yeah, that would probably be the better start, just to learn about what the American Film Institute is, because a lot of people don't know about it.
Okay. Go to the website, afi.com.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much, ma'am, for being with us.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you.
Yes, this has been great. So I will be in touch with you very soon, and I appreciate your time. Thanks for being with us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, take care. Thank you for joining us. As you consider joining a Greek organization, be mindful of the value of the collective. For more information about other episodes, remember to subscribe to the Back to Me podcast, College and Beyond. I'm your host, Yoli Tamu. Leave a review at the end of this podcast, and if you would like to learn more about other special events, join the Back to Me podcast Facebook group, or simply text Back to Me to 833-206-4565. Until next time, be well.